Napier here today? Why are they making him sit in that chair? Because of an obsession? What did the state tell you about that makes them, that they want to use to tell you that Mr. Napier was obsessed with Julie Denton? Well, he wrote about her in her diary, his diary. He wrote that he was going to tell her how he felt, that he was scared and didn't tell her the day he planned on it. And then the next day, he did it. He told her. The state wants you to engage in some sort of literary construction. Let's do some statutory analysis of what these words mean. What is the antecedent of it? What did he mean by it? Well, I've got a crime to solve, so maybe it could be the crime. Let's say that, because obviously Mr. Napier is a writer, and he is going to be using all the literary tools for us to solve a crime by looking at what the preceding sentence was in his journal. It's not reasonable. It's not reasonable to convict Mr. Napier because of his personal diary. It's not reasonable to think that for days, Mr. Napier was writing in his journal about telling Julie Denton how he felt. And then the next day, he writes, "I did it," to mean not, "I told her how I felt," but "I killed her." That's what that means. That's not reasonable. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to believe that Mr. Napier, after committing a violent crime, would go home and sit by his bed, open his journal, and write, "I did it. I killed her." That doesn't make sense. And this is not evidence that you can use to convict somebody. This is evidence that somebody liked somebody else. They liked somebody, and they wrote in their journal about it. This makes Mr. Napier guilty of liking a married woman. He did not kill her. And that's all the state brings for you today to look at. That's it. They brought an officer up here who readily admitted we might have made mistakes in this case. I don't know. I don't know why the turpentine that I think I found isn't in the report. I don't know where she was murdered. I don't know how. I don't know when. I just know I found a diary, and in that diary it says I did it. What other crimes could we possibly convict Mr. Napier of that might have happened on June 1st? Certainly there must be a burglary that happened. Maybe someone ran through a stop sign or hit a car. Mr. Napier must have done it. He wrote it in his diary. Is that what the state wants you to convict Mr. Napier on? Surely they have more than that. They don't. What they have is another suspect. Never questioned, never answered. The most important question in today's case, who killed Julie Denton, was never answered. Because the police and the state never questioned the possibility. Did Pamela Denton do it? All of the physical evidence stacks up equally against Pamela Denton and Jack Napier. Except we know why Mr. Napier's fingerprints were on the necklace, that black cotton wasn't suspicious, and why he had red paint on him. You can take that and take a look at it. That's Pamela Denton's skirt. We don't know why Pamela Denton's skirt had red paint on it. But you look at that picture. It has a handprint on the skirt. Julie Denton's hands had red paint on them. The same red paint that's on that skirt. Now, Pamela Denton says, "Oh, I fell in the garage and then I wiped my hands on my skirt." No. That didn't happen. So if that's how paint got on Pamela Denton's skirt, would have looked like this. Maybe this. It wouldn't have looked like Pamela Denton reached across her lap, turned her hand at an awkward angle, and swiped downwards. That doesn't make sense. Because that's not how Pamela Denton got paint on her. Pamela Denton waited for Jack Napier to leave the garage. She waited for him to leave, and then with all of the anger that had been building up in her over the years, her mom was constantly picking fights with her, constantly telling her what to do, telling her how to be in the right circles, who to be. You can't date your boyfriend. You can't go here. You need to go to the charity event. Constantly trying to push Pamela down. And that night, they had a blowout fight. They fought all the time, and Mr. Napier told you this one was worse than usual. Her mom threatened to cut her off. And with that rage, Pamela Denton waited for Jack Napier to leave. She went into the garage and killed her mother. I can't tell you exactly how it happened. I wasn't there, but Pamela Denton was. I don't know if she used a paint can to hit her mom in the back of the head to make her mom fall down in pain. I don't know if her mom was on her knees with pain on her hands, lashing out at Pamela Denton's skirt. I don't know if her mom saw the person who killed her, and if her mom had that final realization that her daughter was about to take her life. I don't know, but Pamela Denton does. Pamela Denton strangled her mom with the necklace she knew meant so much to her. She didn't care. She hid that necklace. She played pranks on her mom. It didn't matter. And Pamela Denton drove her mom to the bridge, half a mile from where she wanted to go that night, dumped the body, and walked to the alibi bar. Pamela Denton is the type of person who strangles a person to death. You heard Dr. Meridian take the stand. He told you there are a number of things that are common in this uncommon crime. Strangulation is rare. It doesn't happen very often. But there's been a lot of studies on the type of people who commit strangulations. What those studies show is that almost always they're between 18 and 35. Pamela Denton's 21. Those people usually have a motivation for one of three things. Personal rivalry was one of them. And Pamela Denton had a personal rivalry with her mother. Finally, those people exhibit psychological disorders, including antisocial personality disorder, callousness, anger. I don't know if Pamela Denton has antisocial personality disorder, but I know she exhibits another thing Dr. Meridian told us is common in strangulations. She's family. 5 times a week in America, children kill their parents. That's scary, but it happens. It's an uncomfortable truth that wasn't even questioned in today's case. Officer told you he didn't look into where Pamela Denton's whereabouts were. He didn't question people who could tell us where she was when her mom died. He doesn't know. He didn't think it was important to investigate the other suspect in this crime. He admits he might have made mistakes. That's okay. We work on assumptions. It's not okay. Even if you don't think Pamela Denton could have killed her mom, you cannot convict Mr. Napier. You cannot find him guilty. Because there are so many questions that were never answered. And so many answers that were never questioned. Jack Napier painted the Denton's house on June 1st. He found a necklace. He gave it back to the owner. He told that owner he had feelings for her. She didn't feel the same way. He accepted her rejection, and he went home. What's the more reasonable explanation? The idea that he would hear her rejection and lash out in anger and kill her? Or that he would accept it and go home? What's more reasonable? That he would wait around for 30 minutes and then decide to attack her? Or that he didn't do it and he went home? What's more reasonable? To think that after he told her that she loved him, she would then offer him a ride to his house, and somehow he would strangle her on the way there. Or the fact that he didn't commit this crime. Mr. Napier didn't commit this crime. The question who did is never answered. This isn't a case about an obsession, it's a case about an assumption. And I ask you, when you go back to the jury room and deliberate, you return the only verdict that speaks the truth. A verdict that reflects your careful and considered examination of the facts and evidence. Not guilty.